It's my way of giving Satan the middle finger while I do it. Because I guarantee you, he thought, all right, I'm going to get him with this disease thing. Now, you're not going to take me out of the game. I'll worship God with my bad arm, bro. I started worshiping with just my left hand in the air because if one of my hands shake, it's my left hand. God, I'm not just going to worship you on the good days. I'll worship you through the bad days. And when I'm really in my head, I'll worship you with my bad arm.
Anxiety, despair, and uncertainty weigh heavily on so many men who are living in the stress bubble of life. Today's episode will bless you greatly. Today we interview Shawn Johnson about his new book, Kiss the Fire, 7 Ways to Get Back Up When You Want to Give Up. You will walk away with a message of hard-won hope and ways to build mental toughness into your life. There are thousands of people listening to this right now who are suffering through something serious. But you've got these 7 strategies that you're learning. What's your favorite? Is there a favorite one for you?
One is...
Hey, Shawn, it's great to have you on the show, man. I am so fired up about this book. We typically see books and subjects like yours are some of the most well-received and widely watched and listened to episodes. So I want to talk to you about this, but first let me read something that I read. It's in your book, or about your book. It says, after receiving a life-altering diagnosis of an incurable degenerative brain disease, you found yourself facing fear and uncertainty and temptation to give up. Yeah. But in the middle of this struggle, a friend of yours encouraged you to kiss the fire and walk away whistling. Can you just take us that moment? Let us know. What's going on, man? How are you doing?
Yeah, man, thank you. So about 3 years ago, I tore my bicep wake surfing with some friends. And so I had the surgery. I was doing rehab, and my left hand was kind of trembling a little bit. And the physical therapist was like, "Oh, no big deal. It's just atrophy. You've been in a brace for 6 weeks." Well, a few months into physical therapy, it was kind of still doing it. And I was honestly 100% sure I knew what it was. I had hurt my neck lifting before, and sometimes I would have to get like some injections in the back of my neck because it would like pinch a nerve and it would kind of affect my left arm a little bit. So I was like, I know what this is. So anyways, she's like, well, maybe you should see a neurologist. And I remember thinking like, well, that's weird. Like, I tore my bicep. Like, why would I see a neurologist? But I guess I was probably thinking, well, it's, head, neck, all this stuff. So I went to this doctor. They did some scans. I was going back to get the results. And like I said, I just kind of knew, like, I already know what this is. I have a pinched nerve. And me and my wife were there because we were actually just going to go hang out after the appointment. And dude, he goes, "Hey, man, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but you don't have a pinched nerve. You have an incurable brain disease and your life's about to change." Dude, I was like, wait, what? Like, it didn't even, like, the words weren't even registering. It didn't even make sense. And so we talked to him for a little bit. I said, okay, what's like best case scenario? And he goes, that we find lung cancer. And my aunt passed away from lung cancer. So I was like, wait, what are we talking about here? And he goes, well, at least if we could find something like that, it would explain some of the symptoms and it'd be something that we could go fight. But he said, well, what I think you have, you can't do anything really about it. And I said, well, what's worst case scenario? And he said, well, we don't know how fast it'll move. It's different with everybody, but we know how it ends up. And worst case scenario is your wife will have to feed and dress you. And so, man, you hear those stories about somebody's life changing in a doctor's appointment or whatever. You just don't think it's ever going to be you.
Yeah.
And so went out to the parking lot of this hospital and I just fell apart. Like, I sat in my truck with my wife and I was just like crying. And I was like, babe, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what this means, for you going forward, for your husband. I don't know what this means for our 3 boys. And my wife's a stud, dude. She just grabs her Bible and starts reading it. And I was actually like upset. And like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I'm not scared. I'm not going anywhere. And it sounds like we need a miracle. So I'm going to start praying for one. And so that's the kind of resolve she has. So anyways, we had come in separate cars. So she got in her car and left. I got in my car, started driving home. And ironically, our church was doing a 21-day like prayer and fasting thing.
Yep.
And I stopped at the gas station on the way home, got a box of Krispy Kremes and ate the whole thing. I was like, my fast is over, bro.
Oh yeah.
And I went home and I was sitting on my back porch and trying to process, like, this doesn't make sense. Like I take good care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've dedicated my life to telling people about Jesus. You know, you think of all the reasons why this shouldn't happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started spiraling.
Mm-hmm.
Like my thoughts got super dark. And it was like, okay, God, you obviously don't care. You're obviously not paying attention. How could you let this happen to me? And, you know, I'm pretty stubborn and I'm pretty good at like fighting back when life throws stuff at me. But that day, like I felt like it just, the ability to fight felt like it got shut off. And I just felt like I was giving up on everything. I didn't want to talk to anybody. My phone was, you know, my wife had sent a message to some people saying to pray. So, you know, all the wives start talking and my phone's blowing up with friends from church, friends from my small group. I wouldn't take phone calls. I wouldn't text people back. Didn't want to go to the church. Didn't want to preach. Like I was just like, I feel like I'm done. And then my phone rang and it was, Coach Mark Montoya. He's a UFC coach at a gym here in Denver called Factory X. And you know, he's like 50 now, but we just literally had our small group Christmas party a couple of days ago. And he's like, yeah, I just did 10 rounds of grappling today with my fighters. Like that's the kind of guy he is. And so I picked up the phone, really because I'm scared of him, but I just love him so much. And I picked up the phone. And I was telling him about, you know, what I had found out and about the diagnosis. And I was just falling apart. And he goes, well, we're going to kiss this fire and walk away whistling. And I said, Coach, that sounds great, but I don't know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I'm not saying it's not going to be hot. I'm not saying there's not going to be hard days. He said, but this doesn't get to take your joy. It doesn't get to take your peace. It doesn't get to change your calling. We're not going to run from this. We're going to go through this and you're going to be better and stronger on the other side. And then he goes, and I'm going to be with you every step of the way. And he goes, Shawn, we're going to kiss this fire and walk away whistling. And so, you know, I never planned on writing about this. That phrase, kiss the fire, just kind of became something that I would hold on to on a daily basis when I would start to feel sorry for myself, or I would get super pissed off at God and not want to do anything. And I'd remind myself, no, I'm going to kiss the fire. I'm going to go through this. Yeah, so that's where the name came from, was that conversation. And, you know, after lots of pity parties and lots of feeling sorry for myself, I did decide, like, I'm not going to give up. And part of it was, you know, I had 3 boys and something like kind of got fired up on the inside of me. And I'm like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but my 3 boys are going to know that you can go through really hard times in life and you can keep fighting, keep trusting God. You don't have to give up. And so really, that's what the book's about. Again, I never planned on writing about it. My agent called me one day and, you know, we were talking about my last book, Attacking Anxiety. And he was like, you know, saying this is, you know, has reached a lot of people and, you know, would you want to write again? And I was like, no. And I told him about my diagnosis and what was going on. And he's like, would you want to write about that? And I was like, no. And then over time, I just felt like every time I would read the Bible, I just felt like every now and then, I felt like God would remind me, like, hey, if you'd be willing to be vulnerable with this stuff and not hide it, it'll help a lot of people. And you can take this difficult thing and add some real purpose to it. And so that really got me fired up again. And so then I called my agent and I was like, all right, I'll do it. let's do it. And so, yeah, so that's how we got to where we're at, where I just released this book, and you and me are talking.
So a couple things really resonated with Shawn. I have 3 boys. How old are your boys?
22, 20, and 17.
Okay, so mine are 31, 29, and 27.
Okay.
And so I think, there's something really powerful about fathering sons,
Yeah.
and having them watch you suffer.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
Suffer well. So how are you doing? How long have we been since the prognosis, and tell us where you are now?
So I'm about 3 years in. I take medicine 4 to 5 times a day. And it's really just to mask symptoms. It's, it's, as far as they know, incurable, barring a miracle. I go to the Mayo Clinic a few times a year. Oddly enough, one of the only things that they feel like can even attempt to slow down this disease is boxing.
Really?
Yeah, it's so. I had never even heard of this. In fact, there's even some places around the country. They have things called like boxing for PD, which is boxing for people who have Parkinson's disease. But I guess the reasoning behind it is, it's different than just like cardio that wears you out. Like you can run on a treadmill or in a straight line, and your mind can kind of drift. But with boxing, or for me, I do a mixture of boxing and some MMA stuff with my friend who's a coach. But it's exhausting. But your mind has to be really thinking hard the whole time, right? So like, what's my footwork? What's my defense? What's the counter strike? And so it doesn't allow your mind to rest while you're getting exhausted. And they believe that there's ways that can kind of push back against the parts of my brain that want to degenerate and kind of go, no, you don't get to degenerate today. We got too much going on.
So does this function? Will this look like more like MS or more like Parkinson's?
Right now, they think Parkinson's.
Okay.
That when I first got diagnosed, they thought it might be something that they were calling Parkinson's plus, and it could be this other thing as well. That if that's the case, average lifespan after that diagnosis is usually like 7 years. They don't have any reason to believe that that's the case right now. So right now they're just calling it Parkinson's disease. And again, that's why I go to the Mayo Clinic, a few times a year. So they're always doing physical exams to see if they think, it's trailing off into something else as well. So
are you feeling any symptoms, or do you feel, are you feeling normal, or do you have any symptoms right now?
No, if I don't take the medicine, even with taking the medicine, I have symptoms. But, usually if someone were to get this, you'd be in your mid 70s.
Yeah.
And so, it's way more rare for someone to get it, at a younger age. And so the symptoms for me, it's the right side of my brain that they say is degenerating. And so the symptoms are on my left side. So my left hand will get real stiff and start to shake a little bit. Sometimes my left leg. And so I always feel it. But the medicine does a good enough job right now of masking it that, if you look hard enough, like when I'm speaking or at church or something, you might be able to see little signs, but you'd have to be really looking for it. The medicine does a pretty good job of masking it right now. Yeah.
So, okay. So what does it look like for you in daily life? I'm so sorry for this. This is just hard. It's hard stuff. It's deep stuff. Yeah. What does it look like for you on a daily basis to kiss the fire?
So, each of the chapters in the book were really lessons I started learning along the way, trying to deal with it. And so really, even when I wrote this thing, I told my agent, I said, this is really just, every chapter is just a reminder to me of how to stay in the fight. And, then now it's a reminder to my boys and, hopefully now anyone else who's going through a tough time. But so there's just different things. It kind of depends on the day. Like, sometimes it's, I need to run to God instead of away from him.
Oh, yep.
Cause you get mad and you want to blame God. And, even as a pastor, like I found myself in that, Sometimes it's deciding to live today, or to start dreaming again, which are all hard things to do when life feels like it's falling apart. Um, like for instance, the dream again, or no, live today chapter. I have two guys in my life that I call pastor, Pastor Chris Hodges and Pastor Craig Groeschel. And Pastor Chris had called me one day and was asking me how I was doing. I was like, man, I'm just struggling. I said, most of my fight right now is in my mind, because it's all the thoughts of what if, right? Like, me and my wife had plans on someday I'll retire and we'll travel. Well, what if I can't walk? I love playing basketball with my boys. How long do I get to do that? Just all these things that you go, what if and when? And so I was just struggling. And he's like, well, he goes, I had a friend who got diagnosed with cancer. He said, my friend loved golf, and we played, this guy would play multiple times a week. He said he got this diagnosis and he quit playing. He said he lived another 2 years without having really any symptoms. And then all of a sudden, some things kicked in and he lost his life pretty quick. He goes, I watched my friend for 2 years not do the things he loved because he was in his head going, what if? And so he said, you don't even know if this disease is going to kill you. You might get hit by a bus next month. Like, he said, so here's what you do. You go to God in the morning and you tell God how mad you are. You tell God how upset you are. You tell him all the feelings. Don't hold anything back. He said, and then you go live today. Go be the husband you want to be. Go be the dad you want to be. Go be the friend you want to be. And decide that you're going to live today. And this difficult situation doesn't get to take that away from you. And so, it's things like that. That would be, one thing that I'll have to do from time to time. Sometimes it's, the way I reference it in the book is remembering past fires.
It's interesting. I'm going to jump in here real quick because I want to talk about this past fires thing, but you said something really powerful. And what I've noticed, I've been in ministry 35 years. And what I've noticed is that we as believers don't really know or realize that God already knows. Like I tell people when they're dealing with forgiveness issues, hey, cuss.
Yeah.
What? No. I go, God already knows what you're saying, bro. Like, he knows what's there. Stop acting like he doesn't.
Yep.
So that was really powerful, Shawn, that you said that. And I didn't want to kind of let you go by that. That God already knows it, man. So, and then you said one more thing, and I want to just let you camp on this a little bit. So my life verse is John 10:10b, that God has come, Jesus came, that we may have life. You've preached on this 100 times, and have it to the fullest. And so here you are with this degenerative brain disease, and you're telling yourself in the morning to live today.
Yeah.
Right? And there are thousands of people listening to this right now who are suffering through something serious. How do you manifest John 10:10b in your life with a degenerative brain disease? How do you do that? And then how would you tell our people to model you in doing that?
Okay. So again, multiple thoughts on that.
Yes.
I'll give you one. One of the things I started talking about at the beginning of the book, because it was something I was really wrestling with, was, all right, Jesus said, I came to give you life and life to the fullest. And he said, in this world, you'll have problems.
Yes.
Right. So for me, the way I've always looked at that is, I'll have one or the other. And so I've almost seen my life as like a mountain range, right? So it's like, or a roller coaster. Like right now, this is a life to the fullest season. And then something happens. And it's like, okay, right now is in this world, you will have trouble. And as soon as I get through this, then I'll have life to the fullest again. And what I've realized over time is, I don't think those two things are separate. I now see them more like train tracks.
Oh,
it's in this world, you're going to have problems, and you can have life to the fullest at the exact same time.
Wow.
Like for instance, we were talking before we started recording that we've been pastors for 20 years. We started this church 20 years ago. Well, when we were celebrating our 20 years, me and my wife were talking, and we're like, man, this has been a rough couple of years. And she jokingly said, can you remember any of the 20 years where it wasn't rough in some capacity? And I was like, no, it's been freaking hard the whole time. And so I had to make my peace with, if I'm waiting for all my circumstances in life to be perfect so I can experience life to the fullest with God, I may never get it. I may be waiting my whole life. So I had to realize Jesus didn't say, just because he didn't say them in the same sentence doesn't mean they don't happen at the same time.
Yes.
And I think that's our whole life. We're always dealing with something or watching someone we love deal with something, and we can have life to the fullest at the same time, but we'll have to choose that. And so, for instance, in my presence, there's fullness of joy, right? That's a promise. Okay, so I've lived my life going, as soon as I get through this hard circumstance, I'll try to get some joy back. Again, if you're waiting for everything to be perfect for you to have joy, you're going to be waiting a long time.
Yep.
Okay, so my problem was when I got this diagnosis, I didn't want to get in God's presence, pastor or not. And, I'm not proud of it. I did have a lot of cuss word conversations with God, and I didn't want to get in God's presence because the truth is I'm mad at him.
Yep.
My problem is I'm a pastor. I don't want to go to church, but that's where I work. I didn't want to preach, but that's my job. I don't want to read the Bible. But if I don't, I'm not going to have much to say to preach about. So here's what I did. I'm not proud of this. I'm just being honest.
I appreciate your honesty.
Here's what I did. I went, okay, but you know what I don't have to do? I don't have to worship.
Oh.
And I won't. And I didn't. In every church service I went to, the hardest part of service for me was worship.
Whoa.
Because I want to worship. I'm so mad at you. So then I felt fake. And a friend sent me a verse one time. I was literally sitting on the front row of our Littleton campus. My buddy was speaking and worship was starting. And he sent me a verse in the middle of service. And it was about God's presence and worship. And something clicked in me, and I went, if God's presence promises me peace and joy and strength and victory and guidance, like, man, I've never needed those things more. So why would I wait until I'm not going through something hard to get into God's presence? And so I didn't grow up in church. I got saved when I was 24. I was a suicidal drug addict who a friend brought to church. And so I used to see people like raising their hands in worship, and it kind of freaked me out.
Yeah.
Well, over time, that has changed for me. And so, man, if I get real passionate in a worship service or whatever, I'm usually a two-hander. I'm putting both hands up.
Oh yeah, baby. Come on.
I don't care who's watching. And
the Baptists wouldn't like that.
No, they wouldn't like that.
They're one-handers.
They wouldn't like that.
Presbyterians might walk out of there. I'm always messing around with guys. So no, you're good to go.
And so, but it was interesting. In that service, I went, I get to choose while going through something tough, if I pursue God or withdraw from God. And I went, I'm not going to let Satan or a diagnosis take away my ability to pursue God. And so I decided I'm going to worship through this. And I did this thing nobody knew but me, but I started worshiping with just my left hand in the air, because if one of my hands shake, it's my left hand.
Oh.
And so for me, it was, God, I'm not just going to worship you on the good days. I'll worship you through the bad days. And when I'm really in my head, I'll worship you with my bad arm.
Wow.
And it not only did something, like solidified something in my soul, like I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to trust God through this. But it's also my way of giving Satan the middle finger while I do it.
100%.
Because I guarantee you, he thought, all right, I'm going to get him with this disease thing.
Yep.
I'm going to take him out of the game. And so it's my way of going, now you're not going to take me out of the game. I'll worship God with my bad arm, bro. And so it's things like that where I have to just, I think God put this fighter spirit on the inside of every one of us.
Mm-hmm.
It says, I didn't give you a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And sometimes I think we have to choose to tap into that fighter spirit. It's there.
Yeah.
We've got it. Um, and so for me, Kiss the Fire was, I'm going to tap into it.
Man, I'll tell you what, I love you, man. I love how you I just love the authenticity, cussing at God. Oh, you're cussing at God, dude. We all cuss at God if we don't use. I just appreciate it's just raw and uncut. I mean, we don't need, when we're in pain, we don't need some polished guy. We need a guy who's, I mean, you're pastoring thousands of men right now on this podcast through this, and probably their wives. And man, I mean, it hit me as you refuse to worship. That worship, we all know this intellectually, that worship is about who God is, regardless of our circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
We know that intellectually, but
Mm-hmm.
but when you're suffering, when you don't know what your day is going to look like. You don't know if that arm is going to shake when you raise it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's raw. That's real stuff.
Yeah.
And so, man, I'm just really moved by what you're saying, man. This is really, really good. So you talked about in your book, you address. I'm not going to tell all 7 because I want them to go buy the book. But you've already talked about 3 of them. But you talked about 7. I'm going to call them strategies or ways that you, I guess, get back up when life knocks you down. I would say maybe pucker your lips to the fire.
Yeah, right.
You want to run and let it burn your butt, but you've got these 7 strategies that you're learning. Why don't you do this? Let's just talk about 2 or 3 or 4 or something. But what's your favorite? Is there a favorite one for you?
There's probably 2 that
Okay.
I get most excited about talking about. One is remembering past fires because it's been so crucial to me. And one is, it's actually one of the 3, it starts with 3 reasons to kiss the fire. And one of the reasons is there's more purpose in your pain than you could ever imagine. And those 2 in many ways go together for me, I think.
Well, it's interesting. So behind me right here, I don't know if you can see that deer.
Yeah.
So when I shot that deer, I actually missed the deer and I hit him in the eyeball. I shattered this whole horn off and collapsed the skull.
Oh, damn.
And I had a friend of mine who's a master taxidermist put it back together again as a mnemonic device for men that God turns. He loves to fix our broken pieces, and I don't want to sound like God is morbid. Please don't hear me saying that. But God seems to take great joy in turning our mess into his message and our tragedy into his triumph. And it seems like, this purpose in your pain, it seems like it's flown out of Romans 8:28 a little bit. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to us in a little bit more detail about this?
100%. So in 2019, I was about 14 years in pastoring the church. And if you want to be a pastor, on paper, I had a really good life.
Yeah.
Church is going great. Great wife, great kids. Just like clicking, everything clicking. And I had been dealing with anxiety and depression for many years. Started taking medicine, probably 10 years before that. But I never really wanted to let people know how bad it would get sometimes. So like it was starting to get to the point where I was having sometimes multiple panic attacks a day. And I would tell the church little bits and pieces. Like I would almost make it a joke. Like I'd be like, yeah, I had a panic attack on an airplane and I got kicked off and it's crazy, right? Well, that's pretty serious, but yet I would turn into a joke. My wife, and she knew only what I'd let her know, but she'd see certain stuff that I couldn't avoid. But I was just struggling, but nobody knew how bad I was struggling. Like nobody knew that sometimes when the whole family'd go to bed at night, I'd stay up and think about ways to take my own life. It was getting so bad. And so one day I was driving on the highway and just had a panic attack. And I felt like I was like dying. I thought I was having a heart attack. I couldn't breathe. I started sweating. I started crying. I'm like, what is happening? And I called my wife, just kind of freaking out. And I was like, babe, please pray for me. I'm not good. And I hung up, and I was having such a bad panic attack. I was like, I can't stay in my truck. So I pulled my truck over to the side of this highway, and I just start walking along the side of the road. And I'm just freaking out. I'm like, I felt like I was losing my mind or something. And I was just like, I was yelling at God. I was like, why won't you help me? I need a miracle. I can't live this way. And my wife knew where I was coming from. And so her and a couple of friends, I don't know how long it'd been, end up coming to that section of the highway and coming to get me. And I just was falling apart. And so anyways, that led to a series of events where I ended up going to a pastor. One of my pastors said, man, you need to get some counseling. I had a super traumatic childhood, just crazy stuff. And he's like, you probably need some childhood, trauma therapy. Like, you just need help. And so I went to this, I checked myself into a 7-week anti-anxiety treatment center. And we were going through all of it. I was in classes every day, seeing counselors or therapists or pastors every day. I mean, it was pretty intense. And there was one night when it got really bad. And it was probably one of the lower moments of my life. I couldn't control the panic attacks. I couldn't control the depressive feelings. And I ended up one night just laying on the floor. We had rented a house near where this place was outside of Seattle. And I'm just laying on the floor in this house. I can't get up. I don't know why. And I'm just so I just kept telling my wife, it just hurts and I can't fix it. It just hurts so bad. And it was just humiliating, because you want to be the knight in shining armor for your spouse. And I had just lost the ability. I was just at the bottom. And in fact, the next day, I couldn't get out of bed hardly. She just put on worship music. A couple hours later, I called the guy who owned the counseling center. I didn't go to my classes that I was supposed to be in. And I called him over and I said, hey, man, to say this now, it sounds so crazy. But I literally said to this guy, I said, hey, I'm going to take my own life. I know that my wife and kids will be better off without me. And I need you to help me or help my wife process how to help our boys and how to help her get through this. But this is happening. In the moment, that felt so right. And I say it now and it sounds crazy. But in the moment, and I guarantee a bunch of people who listen to you know what that feels like, or love somebody who knows what that feels like.
Oh, for sure.
Satan gets a hold of those thoughts, man. And then he starts drilling this total lie from the pit of hell. But he starts drilling this thought into our heads that says they would be better off without you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not true, but in the moment it feels true.
Yeah.
And so anyways, long story, 7 weeks, I come out of there. I don't give up. I keep going. I started learning the power of worship actually there. And I came out not perfect, but better and healthier and stronger than I ever thought I would be. Wasn't having panic attacks. Not perfect. Still deal with anxiety and depression every now and then, but nothing on that level. I went back to the church. Sorry, I'm babbling. You tell me to shut up.
No, you're good. No, you're doing great. You're doing great. We have so many people struggling with anxiety. So many people struggling with anxiety. And I know that's not the purpose of this book, Kiss the Fire, but you wrote a book about anxiety. And I want to stay true to you and interviewing you on this book. But I want to know what you did. How can you help our people, especially this time of year, struggling tremendously with anxiety? Yeah. What are some things in that book? What's the book called? Anxiety Attack?
Attacking Anxiety.
Attacking Anxiety. I mean, if you don't mind, I'd love to have you share a little bit from that book about what you've learned and how you found healing through that. Because now you're dealing with an area that would definitely cause anxiety, and it sounds like you're really handling it in a stellar fashion. So I'm just trying to track
Yeah.
with you.
Well, okay, yes. So I can finish that last rabbit trail in 30 seconds. And now I wanted to answer your first question, because we were talking about purpose in the pain.
Yes.
So I go back and tell our church everything that happened, scared to death, sure the church is going to sink once they find out how screwed
Yeah.
up I am. I told them everything. Panic attacks, suicidal thoughts, all of it. About a week later, I get a message from a mom, and she says, my 12-year-old daughter watched your message online. She's been dealing with suicidal thoughts ever since she was 8. We go to church, we go to counseling. We've done everything, and she's never wanted to live. And she came into the living room tonight crying, and she said, Mom, someone else understands. Someone knows what
Wow.
it's like. And so the mom was telling her, what I learned through it is, if you don't give up, you don't see it yet, but if you don't give up, there'll be a time when God will use your struggle with so much purpose that it'll blow you away. And you'll look
Yes.
back and you'll go, thank God I didn't give up, because look, he took that mess and he's turning it into amazing purpose. So that's where I was headed with that whole.
And that just seems to be, I'm standing where I am today because of a mess. I think that's what God does. We just have to I've got a couple friends right now that are really dealing with some messy situations, and it's hard for them because they can't see it because they're stuck in the mess. But I was duck hunting with a guy the other day, and he got stuck while we're setting the decoys. He's a bigger dude. He got stuck in the mud. And all he could think about was getting out of that dang mud, right? Well, I came over and I lifted him out, and then he was free. And I feel like a lot of people get stuck in that mud, right? That mire, and they don't see what the freedom is and what they can do to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, I got to get your book, Attack Anxiety, and maybe get you back on here for that, because I think that's very powerful. What would you say to people that suffered through that?
To anyone who's listening, and that's a reality right now, I'd say 2 things from the jump. Number 1, you got to stop hiding it, and you need to get into the presence of God. If you could fix it on your own, you already would have, right? But all of us, but especially us men, we don't want people to know when we feel weak.
Yep.
We don't want people to know that we're struggling. There's something about us guys that we want, even the people closest to us, we just kind of always want people to think we're a little bit stronger than we actually are.
That's so true.
And that was me 100%. And because I didn't let anybody in, it's like that verse that says, pity the one who falls and has no one to help him up.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, that was me. I was surrounded by people who would love to help me up. They just didn't know I was struggling. They didn't know I was in a fight. Because us guys too, we're good at, we tell somebody about 90% of the struggle and feel pretty admirable about I let somebody in. I didn't let anybody into the last 10%.
Wow.
And that's what almost took me out.
So that's interesting. So we're talking about your purpose here, purpose with the pain, but in that we need to have what I call iron sharpening relationships, or maybe people that are holding your head to the fire to kiss it. Talk to us about how these people brought, especially your coach, how they were a source of strength for you.
So I feel this is so important. I actually talked about it in both books, Attacking Anxiety and Kiss the Fire. In Kiss the Fire, I call it Who's in Your Corner.
Yes.
And, but when I got this diagnosis, I wasn't going to hide it. I told a few people that were the closest to me, because I'd learned before that'll take me down the wrong road. Isolation's the worst thing for me when I'm hurting. So that day, I kind of do life with 2 groups of men. One, the guys I lead the church with, and then I have a small group. It's 8 guys. None of them work at church. They're all Christian and they're all CEOs, but couldn't be different. One owns a construction company, one owns a UFC team, one's a financial advisor. They're all different. So the guys from the church come over, and like pastors would, they come over they bring anointing oil with them. They're like, bro, we're going to pray. And they're praying and quoting verses in their prayers. And it was awesome. And I love them for it. And so then they left. And then about an hour later, my small group guys show up. And they're like, well, we want to pray. Nobody's quoting verses, no anointing oil. There were some cuss words in the prayers.
Uh-huh.
And in fact, I remember one of the guys said something to the effect of like, God, I just pray for good vibes and that you'd help him get through this. And I'm sitting there praying with him, and like a smile came on my face because that was so authentic.
Yep.
And I believe it was so pleasing to God.
100%.
And then they just sat with me, and we like laughed, we cried. One of the guys had already looked up one of the best things you can do to fight against degenerative brain diseases is to box. And so Coach Mark Montoya that night on the couch is like, well, I happen to know where a boxing coach is, so I'll see you every Wednesday. Like, he's the kind of guy that, like, no joke, if famous musicians come in to play at Red Rocks Amphitheater or whatever, often they will reach out to him and go, can I get a training session in with you? Like, he's that guy. He doesn't have time for any of this stuff. And I work out with him 1 hour or 1 to 2 hours a week for free. He won't let me pay him. He doesn't have time for it, but he's like, no, I'm walking with you. And it's that kind of support that just changes the game.
Yep.
Like when I had anxiety, I did the opposite. I didn't let anybody in. I didn't let anybody fight for me. And I wound up at a place where I wanted to die. Well, now I'm letting some people fight with me. And yeah, I don't like this situation, but I'm fighting.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm fighting because I got some people in my corner that are helping me on the days when I'm not strong enough. And the cool thing is when what I've found is you open up like that to somebody, it'll cause them to do the same thing. And then you'll be able to pick them up on the days they can't pick themselves up. And then you start to realize the purpose in that. And so it's just kind of it's a win-win, but it takes a whole lot of like courage, especially to start it. It's hard for us guys to like admit, man, I'm hurting, struggling. But when you can get like that authentic with somebody, it changes the game.
Yeah, and I think on some level we want somebody to be courageous enough to give us permission. Mm-hmm. I think the generation above ours considered vulnerability weakness. Yep. And I think that generation missed out on some powerful healing moments and brotherhood. And I think a man who's authentic, and like you've shared a lot of things. You alluded to suicide early on, and I just kind of passed over it. And then you went out and called it. And I think, man, that's a ballsy dude right there to be able to speak it to a guy he's never met. I mean, and that's the kind of courage. So I don't think authenticity makes a man weaker. I think it does the opposite. I think it has a strengthening. What did Billy Graham say? He said, when a man of courage stands up, the spines of others. No, he said, when a man of courage stands up, the spines of others straighten. In other words, he causes others around him to stand up straight too. Yeah. And I think that is so powerful, man. So talk about, you've hinted at isolation. So talk about when you were in pain, when the fire's over here, we tend to kind of go where everybody else is not. Can you talk about how isolation is a plan of Satan?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, like what's the worst punishment in prison? Like solitary confinement, Yeah. God talks about we're supposed to bear one another's burdens. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. Well, you can't carry my burden if you don't know what it is.
Oh.
And I can't carry yours if you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
This will speak to the meatheads that are listening right now.
There's a lot of them. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
I'm in the gym one day, and my buddy, he's a friend of mine. His name's Chad. He's one of the guys who started the church with us, and he's a big dude. We were in the same gym, but we weren't working out together. So he's about 10 feet away over there in the mirror doing like shrugs, and he's just gigantic, right? And so I was on the decline bench. Well, I put a little bit more on there than I would ever normally do because you know the deal. My buddy's
he's over here. Yeah, I understand.
And it was like there was like a voice on this side of my shoulder going like, "Hey, dude, you're gonna need a spot." There's a voice on this side going, don't be a wuss.
Yeah, that decline just rolls up on the neck real nice
Oh,
if you get
bro,
stuck.
it'll take you out. So I get under there and I get about 4 or 5, and all of a sudden I realize this is not going to go back up. Dude, everything I got, I'm like, and I feel it coming down. I'm like, I'm going to die right here on the decline. And I remember thinking, like, God, I'm so sorry I'm embarrassing you, because I was head to toe church merch. I'm like, so this like 20-year-old big old dude comes over, sees it happening, grabs the bar, racks it for me. I like roll out of this thing, stand back up, and I look over, and right then my friend looks over at me, and I was like, bro, I just about died right here and you did nothing. And he looked at me and he's like, you don't think I would have wanted to see that? I want that memory. He's like, I'm sorry, dude. I didn't help because like I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's it. That's how I've been living life.
Whoa.
I'm 10 feet away from a man of God who would have helped me in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't help me because he didn't know I was hurting. And that's what I think plagues men today is we're so afraid to let somebody know we're hurting that we miss out on the benefit of having somebody bear our burdens with us and fight for us spiritually and push us closer to God when we need a shove and pick us up when we have fallen. And we miss out on the purpose of getting to do that for somebody else. And I think Satan just loves it.
Well, I just reminded of the verse in 1 Peter, Satan, your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. Well, who's he prowling around looking for? He's looking for, I'm a hunter. He's looking to isolate the stupid, the young, and the wounded.
Yep. He's not going into a herd.
No, he's waiting for us to, isolate. And so it's just so I would just say to the guys listening right now, man, if you are isolated from the church, if you are isolated from fellowship, if you're isolated emotionally from other dudes, you're only letting them go 10, 90% in, man, you are setting yourself up. You're setting yourself up. So, man, just repent of that and go all in. So, hey, let's talk about, you've talked about, we hinted on it. I want to go back to remembering past fires. I don't want you to share all 7 because I think this book is going to be a life changer, and I don't want them to get the book in the interview today. So talk about past fires. Like you mentioned it a little bit in a conversation with you and your bride, but talk to us about this past fires and how remembering your past fires is a strategy to help you when life seems to knock you down.
Yeah. So where I first started thinking about it was, I love the story in the Bible where Joshua takes the nation of Israel across the Jordan River into the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
And he does this crazy miracle, and, they all get across the Jordan River and the water is parted. And, they've been waiting 40 years to get into this promised land. They get into it. And the first thing God says to them is, go back in the river.
Yeah.
And they had to be like, wait, what?
Yep.
He says, no, go back in the river and grab 12 boulders and bring them over here and stack them up. And he said this, he said, every time you see this, I want you to be reminded of what your God did, of what your God brought you through, of how powerful he was. Tell your kids and tell your kids' kids that he parted those waters and he brought us into the promised land, and never forget it. That seems weird, had to feel weird for them. But see, as we read the Bible, we get a vantage point they didn't have. What we know now that they didn't is, they were in the promised land, but they had to go fight 31 battles to take hold of it.
Yes.
And so, I fully believe God has plans for us, but there are times when he says, now I want you to fight to go take hold of the plans I have for you. And so they have to go fight 31 battles. So 31 different seasons of life where their life is on the line and they're scared to death and everything's gone wrong. And God, you promised us this, so why is it so bad? And the answer every time is, look back to the monument you made and remember that I'm with you and that I'm working and that I do miracles and I got you through that. So I'll get you through this. And so that's now my whole season of life with anxiety in 2019. And I honestly thought it was going to take me out. I thought I was going to lose my job, my family. At times I wanted to lose my life. Well, now, I got this diagnosis that I don't like. But I now know I've been through some stuff.
Yeah.
And if he got me through that, he'd get me through this. He got my family through that. He'll get my family through this. He got my boys through that. He'll get my boys through this. And so it's remembering what he's done for us in the past that oftentimes gives us, at least for me, gives me more strength to face what I'm going through in the present.
You know, it's funny. When we launched this ministry in 2012, about 3 months in, our house went into foreclosure. I mean, I left the church ministry and I started with nothing, right? And it was brutal. You know, it was brutal. But God rescued us through it. He redeemed the situation. The house got redeemed. Everything got redeemed. And then about 3 years ago, and 8 staff later, I'm like, hey, you guys, we're like one paycheck away from, your boss not getting paid, because I'm the fall on the sword guy.
Right.
And they were freaking out. I won't take a paycheck. And I said, no. Just calm down. Yeah. We've been here before.
Yep.
And so when you say, remember your past, and God came through, with a $50,000 gift and all that. But what you're saying is we remember these past victories, past fires, and the victories that go along with them, right? I think that's so important. It's funny in the First Peter, the entire book, if I could sum it up, I would say, remember, because he keeps saying, I want this a reminder, because we tend to forget. We just tend to forget, man. Yeah. So, man, this is so powerful, and I want to honor our time together. So how are you? I mean, I'm just very impressed with your vulnerability and how you're working through all this. How do you balance vulnerability and strength when you're sharing your story? Like, because you're a pastor, right? So you've got a multi-site camp, thousands of people in your church. I don't know how big, I'm guessing thousands of people. How do you balance your job in being vulnerable, and yet and that balance between vulnerability and strength?
Yeah. So great question. And I had no idea how to do that when I first started. I just decided to be vulnerable. What I think I have learned through the process, and the deal, we're always learning and growing, but is if all I do is share wounds, I can almost turn the church into a counseling session for myself.
Yes.
So I can't just share wounds. I've got to also share scars, which is like, yeah, it hurt and it was hard, but look what God did and look how he got me through it. And so I'm not just telling you life is hard. I'm telling you life is hard, but God is better and bigger. And if he can get me through it, he can get you through it. And so that for me is where I try to find the balance.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I had he's probably a friend of yours. Mark Batterson was on recently, and he said, I don't know if it sounded like he just kind of made this up on the spot, but I'm like, bro, I'm never forgetting this.
That dude's brilliant.
He's a savant. Like I say that as a compliment. I'm like, dude, how does your brain work? He said, grace without truth is weak sauce. Truth without grace is hot sauce. But he said, truth and grace is the secret sauce. Doesn't that sound like him?
100%.
Such a Batterson.
100%.
But what you said is the same thing. Like, vulnerability without strength is weak sauce. But strength without vulnerability, then you're this, superstar pastor guy. It's like bringing the balance of both.
Yeah,
is so powerful, man. Oh man, this is good. This is so good. So hey, okay. I know the answer to this is Amazon. So I'm not even going to ask how they find the book, but I will ask this: how do these guys get I think you're going to resonate with a lot of guys. Man, so how do these guys connect with you without ruining your life?
Probably Instagram or something like that.
What is it?
Shawn Johnson RRC stands for Red Rocks Church.
Shawn Johnson. Hey guys, it's SHAW. Shawn Johnson RRC. Yep. Okay.
And I would love it. Like, hit me up. Tell me how I can pray for you. I get it. Honestly, I didn't grow up in church. And when I got saved, I never wanted to be a pastor. And one of the things that scared me about it was because I kept feeling like, I think God wants me to be a pastor. It's like, I can't pretend to be perfect like these guys. I can't do that. And I think just going through life and going through things that I didn't have the strength to hide, even if I wanted, I just kind of learned, like, man, hiding our hiding our pain is exhausting.
Yep.
And there's no freedom in that.
Are you in Douglas County?
We're in Jefferson County, but we have a location in Douglas County.
I've been involved in ministry with men in that area for years, and it's one of the richest per capita places in America, but it's probably one of the most broken places I've ever seen. And I can only imagine you must be a breath of fresh air for these guys.
Yeah, so I think that's our biggest. We have 4 locations right now in Denver, and I think that one's probably our biggest. They're fairly similar, all 4 of them, but that's probably slightly bigger. It's an awesome part of town.
Man, I'll have to do some research into your church and maybe check it out when I'm over there at the end of the month. So, hey, Shawn, man, I appreciate this, brother, so much. This anxiety. I am really, really intrigued by this. I may be hitting you up soon, but man, I sure appreciate you for coming on the show today.
Man, thank you so much for having me. It's really cool.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, bro.
If you have not yet subscribed to our podcast, please go and follow it, subscribe to it. Our research has been showing us that a lot of you listen regularly but do not subscribe. Please do that. That'll help us reach more men globally. Man, we just appreciate you guys so much. Until next time, feel the wet sand on the arena floor. Hear the deafening roar of the crowd. Taste the sweetness of victory. Smell the stench of battle. Get in the game. Get dirty. Grind it out. Build mental toughness into your life. And be a man.